The only bad decision is not making a decision. So poverty thinking is indecisiveness.
Ooh.
So they keep you in indecisiveness. Now, successful people make decisions fast.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. I'm your host, Jeffrey Pinzon. Today we have a special podcast for you guys. Make sure that if you guys are driving, stop, take some time to listen to this podcast because we have a legend in the house today. I had the pleasure of having him at our first Go Heavy event as the keynote speaker. And I got to tell you, man, the feedback that I got from everybody that went to the event, they were like, man, this gentleman made me cry, made me happy, made me unleash my power, like it made me change my perspective. This man doesn't need an introduction, but he is one of the best speakers out there right now. I've learned tremendously from him from afar, and he's been an inspiration in my life, in lives of thousands. He's impacting thousands and thousands of others' lives. So without further ado, help me welcome Nick Santonastasso to the podcast. My man.
Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate
Crushed
you, brother.
it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Listen, when you know he's the real deal when he does his due diligence on the last name. When people can say the last name, that's a good green flag. So well done.
No,
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for opening the house to your brand new house, man.
We did it. We did it.
Brother.
Listen, new levels, new devils.
That's
I
right.
think one of the greatest things, just to dive into it, I think one of the greatest things that you could do to elevate your identity is to be in proximity of big things. You know, it's
Right.
one thing to have a vision board, but it's another thing to like go walk $1 million listing,
Yeah.
right? And like everybody listening right now can go on Zillow and find $1 million mansion that has an open house and just go walk it.
Exactly.
Walk it with your family, like anchor it in the moment. So
Touch the dream.
touch the dream, as
Yeah.
Ed would say, right? And
Yeah.
so for this house, I have lived in this house in my head thousands of times before I lived here.
Wow.
Right? Like I wanted to create a space where I had a gym there, I had a cold plunge, I had the sauna, I had the pool, I had the hot tub, I had the turf for the dog, like you name it. And when I found this listing, I was like, that's the house. And they didn't want me to have this house. Universe, whatever it is, like all of the disruption, all of the challenges and the worthy opponents to get this house, it was one of the greatest worthy opponents of my life. And I literally changed the background on my phone to a quote, and it was like, with the guts to persist, victory is inevitable. You know, it's like the only thing that's standing in between you and the person that you want to be is persistent. You know, persistence is like, will you suck long enough to be great at something?
Right.
Will you suck long enough to get the house, right?
Right.
So here we are inside the crib.
Excellent.
We got the amazing mural
man.
behind us that Seb did, victorious. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. I love this, by the way. That's badass. And I gotta tell you, man, as we were driving over here, like I saw the neighborhood. I'm like, man, he's living the dream, man. Like I got inspired, gated community, everything. I'm like, man, I have my wife in the car, by the way. She didn't want to come out, but she's in the car.
She didn't want to come in?
No, she didn't want to come
All
in.
right.
She's
By the
like
way,
that.
she's allowed to come in, so everybody knows. I'm like, yo.
No. Yeah, she's like that. She had a couple things to do on the phone. But yeah, man, when we were driving over here, I was like, man, this is what's up, man. I inspire you because your life has not been easy, right? Tell us a little bit about back in high school. Who was Nick back in high school?
Yeah, so for those that don't know me and they've never seen me before, I was born with a super rare genetic disorder called Hanhart syndrome. And Hanhart syndrome either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. So at the time of my birth in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of those babies have passed away due to undeveloped organs. And so I had about a 30% chance to live. And when I was born, they did tests of my organs, and my organs came back 100% healthy. And I make a joke about this because when I was born, the doctors handed my parents a long list of all the things that I would never be able to do. I mean, first they advised you should probably abort him. And then if you don't abort him when he's born, you should probably institutionalize him. You should probably give him away. And then they were like, well, he's not going to be able to feed himself, dress himself, be independent. And now those doctors are probably dead. I'm alive and I'm a millionaire. So who wins, right? So we win, right? So yeah, you know, growing up, I didn't realize I was different. You know, I was a pure kid, right? And what's pretty interesting is, you know, I tell people most of the thoughts that you think aren't yours, you pick them up from someone else.
Right.
And you picked up the conditioning from someone else. And so I didn't really realize I was different until, like you said, middle school and high school. And my biggest pain point was actually validation and feeling loved by like women. You know, I wanted a girlfriend. You know, everybody had boyfriends and girlfriends, and I wanted to have a girlfriend. And I felt, or maybe I created, or maybe I experienced that I wasn't receiving the love from women that I wanted, right? And I remember thinking to myself, well, you cannot change no legs of an arm, but you can get a six-pack. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? Right? And I think for every man or woman out there right now, it's like, if you want to take your life to the next level, if you want to take your business to the next level, the first thing you must do is master your internal world and like start nurturing your temple and your body. Because the truth is, your creator gives you one body, and sometimes he misses a few parts and he forgets them. But you got to work with the hand that life has dealt you with. But you think about it, like your physique and your physical body, which we can talk about where you're committing absolutely. To. But your physique and your physical body is the first proof of manifestation. It's the first proof of that you are what you think, but also you are what you eat and you are what you consume. And so, like, if you want to change anything in your life, the first thing that you have real control over is your physique and your body. And what that will do for you is, people ask me all the time, it's like, what's the point? You have no legs of an arm. Why do you even work out? It's like, yo, I look good naked. And when I look good naked, I feel good. I feel certain. I feel confident. And that translates to all the areas of my life. Yeah. But also, one of the greatest skills that people can learn, and we taught your audience at the Go Heavy event, was pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is helping you identify things that you cannot see so you can strip power away from them. And so with patterns tend to bleed into every single area of your life. And so if I can speak directly, if someone destroys their body, they probably destroy their clients. They probably play 50% with their kids. You know, like, how you do one thing is typically how you do everything. And so I think that your body and your physique is a direct reflection of your worth and how you treat yourself and how you treat other people.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
We just dove in there and gave him a bunch of sauce right
absolutely,
there.
brother. Yeah, I remember, man. I used to be always overweight. Like, I've always had a challenge with my physique, or either lose weight and then I gain it all back. I lose weight and I gain it all back. This time around, I'm like, man, I gotta commit. Like, I gotta live in excellence. My daughter, she was like, Dad, you're getting fat. I'm like, shoot, all right. Like, you need that raw feedback. And I'm like, okay, I need to get back on it. My suits weren't fitting or anything. So it's true, man. Like, how you do one thing is how you could do a lot of the things. So with that, when you were back in middle school, like, what was your motivation factor? How did your parents play a part for you to defy those odds?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the greatest thing that my parents did for me was they treated me normal. And they didn't play this victim role, and it didn't coddle me. You know, I tell people, I said, most of you have all your arms and all your legs, and you're more handicapped than I am, right? Based on the way that you were brought up in your psychology. And so true. You know, even growing up, like, my parents wouldn't feed me. You know, like, when I was a baby, of course, they're feeding me. But when it got to a specific point, they're like, yo, figure it out. Here's a spoon. Here's some waffles. Like, get at it, right? Here's your clothes. Here's your shirt. Here's your pants. Figure it out. And clearly, I figured out how to dress myself, right? I'm here. I got my clothes on today. And, you know, my dad told me when I was an adult, he said, son, if I would have put, you know, stepping stools everywhere and little loops on everything, he said, you would have got smacked in the face by the real world. He said, and so, like, imagine being a parent and having to witness your kid failing and falling on its face. And, like, that's really difficult, but that's the one thing that's going to cultivate them, you know? And I'm not a parent, and I'm not preaching from a place of being a parent, but understand that your role as a parent isn't to give your kids everything. It's supposed to put them in specific environments to cultivate them. Like, they got to fail. They got to fall down. They got to be solution oriented. They got to get resourceful. They got to get hurt, right? And by the way, it's like, you know, parents, I believe they're like, I want to create this perfect life so my kids have no trauma. It's like, no. It's like, you're going to traumatize all your kids, whether you know it or not. It's one thing to give them, you know, induce trauma, or like, you're not inducing it, but it's one way for your kid to have trauma, but it's another thing for you not to give them the tools to handle it. And so what is a tool to handle trauma for anyone that's listening, whether it's your team, whether it's your kids, is like, ask great questions. Like, what are you feeling? Where does that come from? What do you think the gift in that is? What do you think the learning in is that? Like, if you start programming great questions in your kids at an early on, like, they're going to be whizzes. They're going to be like superhumans. And so I got off topic, but my parents treated me very normal, and they didn't coddle me. They didn't shelter me. They let me fall on my face. And because of that, I knew that failure was my friend. You know, most people, failure is not a friend for them. They don't want to fail. They're afraid of failing. And I was like, what if I were to tell you that on the other side of failure, everything you want in life? is on the other side of that, right? So it's like, if I have a little quote: if failure is a friend, you'll learn to the end. Yeah. If failure is a foe, you'll never grow.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, John C. Maxwell always talks about, man, you gotta make failure your friend, not your enemy.
Yeah.
You gotta make it your friend because there's lessons and blessings in those failures, and it's your job to see them, right? It's changing the perspective, the way that you look at things. And I could relate, like, I remember when I was in middle school, in middle school, as a matter of fact, elementary. So I was born with a small leg, and my parents they figure it out as well, right? And I was very, very self-conscious. Like, you will never see me wearing shorts, ever. Yeah. Like, if you will see me walking, I was already prejudging you. Like, this guy's looking at me limping. He's probably thinking, why is this guy limping? I was already prejudging that person, and little that I know, they were curious. Yeah. They've never seen. God gave me 2 legs. Thank God He gave me a small one, but I gotta work with it, right? So I didn't understand that, and so it played a big game. It played a big part in my life when it came to girlfriends. Like, I remember my wife when I started dating her. I was like, I gotta tell you something. She was like, what is it? She thought I was gonna. I'm like, I was born with a small leg. She's like, so what? I'm like, yes, really? And she's like, yeah, I don't give a shit about your leg. I care about you. Yeah. And so it played a big, it was something that I had to break through. Like, what were some stuff? Because I know that people were always judging. We're always judging people, and you're unique, right? Yeah. You're unique. So how was that like for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very challenging thing to overcome. There has to be a level of maturity, and a level of consciousness for you to break through that, especially when you have a physical limitation or maybe a mental limitation. It's like there has to be a level of maturity and compassion and consciousness level for you to realize that it's not affecting you. I think the big thing is people don't care about you as much as you think they do. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Right? It's like, yo, ain't nobody staring at you. You ain't that pretty. Yeah. You know, you ain't that cool, right? And so, I think it's so funny because humans think they're so important. We think we're so important, and in the grand scheme of things, like, we're just like a fart in the wind, And so the first thing is, like, people aren't necessarily always looking at you, but also, like you mentioned, is the reframe is like they're curious. Yeah. Like, if I would have understood that, if someone told me that, a kid, but like, if they came up to me and be like, oh, they're staring at me. Of course, you're a unicorn. Like, if you saw a unicorn on the side of the street, would you look? I'd look. Of course, yeah. Like, it's so funny. I'll share a story. I've never told a story. My dad was talking about this the other day. I got to see him, and he's like, do you remember that time we were in the car together, and like you were giggling, and I was like, Nick, what are you laughing at? And I was like, nothing. And he's like, no, what are you laughing at? And I was like, that lady's got one leg over there. And he's like, what? He's like, you got no legs. Like, what are you laughing at? But it's just like that innocence of a kid's, but also understanding, like, being curious. And so a few things that I had to break through. The first thing that I had to break through was realizing that I was different, accepting the fact that I was different and being okay with that. And for the longest time, I wasn't comfortable in my body. And I think the reason why I wasn't comfortable in my body is because I was focused on all the evidence of why it was wrong versus all the evidence of why it was right.
So good.
Right? So understanding, for those that are listening, is your brain is the best detective in the world. And your brain is always going to try to find evidence to prove your beliefs right. So if you have a belief that you're disgusting, you're going to create, bro, even if there's no evidence, you'll create the evidence to prove yourself right. Yeah. It's like people that say, oh, I always have terrible bosses. Always have terrible jobs, or people that are like, I'm just not lucky. It's like, no shit, right? It's like, because of that belief, you will find the short end of the stick. Yeah. You will find the terrible in the boss, or you'll create the terrible in the boss to prove yourself right. Yeah. That's why having great beliefs is so powerful, because your brain's going to find the reasons why it's right. Like, what if you had the belief that God has rigged the game for me and it's always in my favor? Yeah. What a belief. What if you had the belief that everything is either working on me or working for me, but it's always working? What about those beliefs, right? So I had to overcome and have breakthroughs about my physical body. I also had to have, and I think a lot of people relate to this, I had to have breakthroughs that I wasn't stupid. When you get into school and you tie your self-worth to a number on a test that don't really mean anything, you start to think like, oh, I'm not a good learner. I'm not good at this, and I don't like reading books. And the truth is, I just didn't like the things I was learning. I wasn't passionate about the things that I was learning. Now, like, I've realized, like, in the most polite way, like, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
In the sense that I can like consume information and then teach it with certainty. I can piece together keynotes in my head. Like I'm moving Lego blocks about stories and what beliefs I'm gonna anchor. I'm like, yo, you're a ninja. Like you're really good at the things that you are really passionate about. So there's a few things, and everybody can relate to this. I made a video why traditional education has programmed you to be poor, and I'll give you a few reasons why this is. The first reason is because in school you had a multiple choice test, and with a multiple choice test you had one right answer and you had like 4 wrong answers. So you were programmed that there's a right decision and there's a wrong decision. But that's not true. Every decision that you're going to make in your life, you're going to gain something and you're going to lose something. The only bad decision is not making a decision. So poverty thinking is indecisiveness. Ooh. So they keep you in indecisiveness. Now, successful people make decisions fast. They're decisive. So that's the first thing. The other thing which is so funny is in school, when you go to the guy or girl with the answers, you're called a cheater. In entrepreneurship, it's called speed. Yeah. It's like, yo.
As long as you copy the right cat.
That's what I'm saying. Right? You gotta copy cat, make sure you're copying the right cat, right? So in entrepreneurship, when you go to the person with the right answers, it's called collaboration, it's called coaching, it's called condensing time. But in school, you're called a cheater, right? Like, what's up with that, right? And so there's a few things that we've been programmed to believe that just aren't true. Another one is, time is money. Time is not money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. If I were to tell you after this podcast, I'm going to wire you $1 million, but you can't wake up tomorrow, would you take the deal?
Heck no.
Absolutely not. So poverty thinking is trading time for money. Wealthy thinking is using your money to get your time back.
Yeah.
But this is how they program us.
That's crazy. Damn, that's so good. That's so good. So let me ask you this. How did you start rewiring yourself and getting into that mindset of looking at things in a positive way and being focused on that and not looking at it at a negative perspective? Because again, society has, like you said, it's programmed us to be numb, to be in that, oh, this is it, like not to be settled, right? Yeah. You didn't want to settle, right? You were always looking for that genius, finding that gift that you were gifted with. Yeah. What were some steps that developed that? Yeah,
it's a great question. I think the biggest thing we talk about the law of exposure, right? Yeah. And the law of exposure states the moment I'm exposed, I can never be unexposed. And so, I make the joke on stage. I said, if I take this whole room on a private jet, none of you would ever want to fly Spirit again, right? And so I think, by the way, like, let me drop down here for the audiences. Like, it's not your fault that you don't know. No one taught you. No one taught me how to deal with my emotions. No one taught me how to deal with my trauma. No one taught me. I didn't know what emotional intimacy was. My family showed love in 2 ways, food and money. But there was never a time where it was like, let's work through your feelings. No one ever taught me that. And so understanding, like, I'm not throwing stones at whoever raised you. Like, they did the best they could with what they knew and their conditioning. So you can be born with poverty thinking, but if you die with poverty thinking, that's your own issue, right? And so I think the biggest thing that helped me get to the next level and started my journey of personal development and entrepreneurship was curiosity. Now, it's pretty interesting. I just had another download is in school, if you're too curious, they tell you to shut up. Yeah. Stop asking so many questions. Why do you ask so many? Why? Kids, why? Why, mom? Why, dad? And then you're like, stop. It's like, no. Curiosity is your kid's greatest superpower, because if they're curious, they'll go find answers about things they don't know. Right? And so I think the first thing that everybody needs to understand is, like, get curious. And I got exposed when I was about 18, 19 years old. I got exposed to a man who was running, still in my life. It was a man who was running a successful meal prep company in Florida. And I was living in Jersey at the time. And he was like, hey, would you just come out to Florida and see my facility and we'll hang out? I want to show you a few things. Now, let me back up is my parents, we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. We were middle class. I always had everything I wanted. It was great, right? When I went out to Florida, it was the first time I ever saw someone who was an owner of a company. I was like, wait, you don't work here? You own it? He's like, yeah, what do you mean I own it? This is my team, right? And he's like, come over here. He's like, you know what kind of car that is? I was like, I've never seen that car in my life. He's like, it's a Lamborghini Gallardo. I'm like, I've never seen a Lamborghini Gallardo in my life, right? And then I noticed, like, I'm looking at his lifestyle. I'm like, wait, you get to work out in the morning and then just show up to work when you want? He's like, yeah, I create my world. I'm like, what is going on here? Because I was never exposed to it. My parents, and no offense, like shout out to my parents, amazing people. Like they saved my life. I'm here because of my parents. But I've always seen them go work for someone else. And so I wasn't.
They didn't know, right?
Yeah, they only know what they know, right? And so I think the biggest thing that people could do is get in the right rooms, go heavy, right? Like get in the right rooms of exposing yourself to information that can change the trajectory of your life. The most dangerous information is the information that you don't know, right? In the moment that you expose yourself to the information, you cannot see life the same. And so, like, if my model of the world is like I only know $50,000 a year, then that's all I know. But if I go to someone and he's like, yo, I made $1 million in a month, I'm like, where have I been? You know what I'm saying?
100%, man. I could relate because, so I'm Colombian, right? And I came to this country legally. And before, I used to see it as, like, I used to fight with God. Like, man, like, all my friends have an opportunity to work here legit. I have to find a way to make ends meet, right? But little did I know that was the biggest blessing because it made me develop my sales skills. It made me push and not get into selling drugs or anything like that. It made me see what else can I do with what I had, right? My parents, same thing. I was middle class, right? They always I always had food on the table, clothes to wear. It was good, but I needed to grow, right? I needed to expand that vision. And coming here, getting around the right people, the right proximity, that has helped me elevate my standards. I'm like, man, it's so true. Like, you never want to go back. Like, yeah, you get to experience that, but it's like now it's part of your story. But there's so much more that by growing, you adding value to other people, right? Yeah. You've spoken in so many stages. You've been part of Tony Robbins events. Like, what is that like, being able to impact the masses and seeing their transformation, seeing them cry because of your gift and you being in your power and really wanting to be there to add value to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started speaking, I got into speaking just for money. I was just money hungry. I was like, wait, there's people out there that speak and then they get paid and that's it? I'm like, this is amazing. Because, like, remember, I'm a kid with no legs and one arm. It's like I didn't know how I was going to support myself. I didn't know how I was going to feed myself. And I always strive to be independent. And so I was like, I need to find something. And there was actually a pastor. His name's Nick Voyagic, another Nick with no arms or legs. Yes. And I had met him when I was 13 at a church in the Bronx in New York. And I saw a man that looked like me who was successful. And I was like, there is no way. Like, what is going on? And I wasn't very religious and all that back then. I was raised Christian, but, like, it was just the exposure of, like, the proof of the evidence. I talked about, like, evidence that I can do that.
Yeah.
And so when I was 20, like, when I got into speaking with my business partner, I got in it solely for money. And I realized very early on, and you'll notice this in the industry, is the people that are solely in it for the money, they fall off. You don't see them. Because the pull, the drive, the passion isn't there, right? It's like entrepreneurship's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're only in it for the money, you'll quit, you know, and you'll see a lot of people, they'll come and go. And so I got in it solely for the money. And then when I went to my first Tony Robbins event, I saw the man, Tony, speak for 13 hours straight, you know, impact lives. I got people crying. I was crying. Like, I was like, what did he just, like, I want to do that. Right? Like, I was like, oh, there's levels. Like, I'm not a speaker. Like, that's a speaker. That's, right. You know? And so by exposing myself to a higher standard, I started diving into speaking. Now, there's a few massive benefits of becoming a speaker. The first thing is, I think it's the most selfish thing for you to overcome things in your life and your traumas and walk a specific path and not share the map with other people. Right? And so there is someone out there right now, and I'm talking to you right now. There's someone out there right now who's suffering because you haven't shared your story. They haven't found you yet. Like, imagine if you didn't share your story. Imagine if I didn't share my story. There's a little boy or a little girl. There's an adult out there that needs you, but isn't going to find you because you're too scared about rejection. You're too scared about your fear of public speaking. You're too scared about people throwing stones and hate comments. Like, you're selfish. And so I think it's the most selfish thing for you to keep your story to yourself. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, what's pretty fun about speaking, there's a few things, but one thing that most people don't talk about is when I'm on stage, I'm really just having a conversation with myself and y'all are listening. I'm constantly coaching myself. I'm coaching myself on stage.
So true.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, even now on the podcast, it's like, I need to hear myself.
Yeah.
I need to hear the information.
Where you're staring, you need it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so like, y'all are just in the audience. I'm really just talking to myself, right? But the other thing, which is one of the most beautiful things about speaking, about teaching, about coaching, about leading, is that when you witness healing, you receive it as well. Have you ever been on Instagram or social media and you saw someone have a breakthrough or you know, a soldier come home and then reunite and you feel a specific way? Because when you witness healing, you get to receive healing as well. So every time that I give people breakthroughs and ahas and their life changes in the audience, my life changes as well. So selfishly, I'm there for me as well.
That's powerful.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so stop hiding. Like, you've walked a specific path. You have a specific map. Now it's your obligation to turn around and condense time for other people.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Right? Like the only reason why I'm sitting in this chair in this $1 million house with the companies that I have and the impact that I make is because someone further ahead turned around and helped me condense time. Okay. And so now it's my obligation to do it for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're leading you made the path, and now you're leading a path for others to come and get there faster, right?
Yep.
Get there faster with less headaches. So let me ask you this: with business, right? You run now multiple businesses. What are some setbacks or challenges that you encountered throughout the process, and what did you learn about yourself and about the people that you have around? Because your team it has a lot to do with your growth, right? Like you have a strong team that supports you, that is there for you. What are some stuff that you encountered that you got to see who was really in your corner? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think those that go through the hard times, even when the money isn't coming in, it proves their worth, and being very conscious of making sure everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction. And if we're rowing the boat and there's homeboys over here not rowing, cut. Like immediately got to cut. Like I don't care how close it is. Like it's got to be cut. Like everybody's got to have the same urgency, be in the same mission, and have the same clarity. The other thing is, it's very hard to lead a team when you're not who you say you are. You know, it's like, well, why doesn't anyone listen to me? It's because you're a 4. You know what I'm saying? And so, and by the way, for those that's love. And if that makes you feel some type of way, the shoe fits. I don't wear shoes, but the shoe fits. Wear it, right? And so you must lead from the front. And what does that mean? It's, well, like, if I want my team to operate at the highest level, I need to operate at the highest level. Like, I cannot be a hypocrite. Like, I got to set the standard. Like, I got to take care of my body. I got to take care of my mind. I got to have deep, meaningful relationships. I got to make sure my money's good, right? Another thing as well is, what I did early on is I neglected the money side of business. Like I had someone else handle the money, and it was because I was like, I'm stupid, right? I don't know money. I can only count the one on my finger, right? Like all these different things, all these beliefs. And so I think the best thing that you can do as a leader is at least have basic knowledge about everything going on in the company. Like don't neglect any part because you don't feel comfortable with it. At least have a basic understanding of it so you can lead people. Oftentimes, a lot of people, like, they'll bring in financial advisor, they'll bring in an ad agency, and they don't know anything about ads. It's like, bro, you at least need to know something about the thing so you can lead people in the right direction. Does that make sense? And then the other thing is, you have to make sure that your business has a pandemic-proof business model. Like, I got destroyed during COVID. Like, COVID, my only business model was I go on stage, and because I go on stage, I get paid, trading time for money. But I didn't know events were going to get canceled. So when COVID hit, it destroyed my first company. Like literally, like hundreds of thousands of dollars gone in 3 weeks. You know, and I wasn't prepared for that. And
what did that do to you mentally?
Yeah, scared. Right? There's a moment of fear, and there's two things that happened. There was two things that happened during that time. The first person sat around on their ass and said, I'm going to wait for the world to come back to normal, and they got destroyed. They sat in fear too long. And the other person got a little bit scared, and then they pivot and they moved. And what I did was, there was like a week of like, oh shit, this is it, right? Like I thought we were going to claim bankruptcy, like go under. I was like, take it, I'm done, you know? Because I felt like right when I got success, it gets taken away from me. Right when I'm about to scale, it gets taken away from me. And so after about a week, I looked around I modeled. I looked around and see, like, what is Tony doing? What is Ed doing? Like, what are these big dudes doing? Because their businesses rely off events as well. And I saw them start going to virtual, but I also saw that they had products and services on the back end, which I didn't. And I was so resistant. I was so resistant to selling, which, by the way, that's like our whole job is to sell, to serve people, right? That's a whole nother workshop for a whole nother time, right?
Selling and serving.
Right? Yeah, 100%. So I was like, I don't have products and services. I'm a speaker. I'm not a salesman. Like all these different beliefs. And the pain of COVID gave me enough leverage to learn and immerse myself in digital marketing and products and services. And so we created a whole nother business. And now that the world's back to normal, this business is going 7 figures. This business is going 7 figures. Digital will be an 8-figure revenue stream. I will make more money and more impact off the baby that I created during COVID than my initial business. Like, who would have thought, right? And so make sure your business model is pandemic proof, it's recession proof. And also we're talking about behind the scenes is for those that tie their brand to their face, it's very hard to like exit that. It's very hard to like move away from that. Like everything relies on the clapping monkey on stage, which is me, right? And so with the speaking services that we provide now is, I didn't name it Stage Secrets Nick Santonastasso. It's just Stage Secrets. It's just stage mentorship. It's just stage mastery, right? Because I want to create a system that people can come through and it's not solely relying on my name. Does that make sense? So those are a few things that I've learned through business. And then another thing is make sure that you're filling your own cup up. You know, like there's a misconception, and I'm going to break it down. You can't lead from an empty cup. You can't lead from a half-empty cup. You can't even lead from a full cup. You must lead from an overflow, overflow of joy, an overflow of passion, an overflow of loving on yourself. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs will do more for others than they'll do for themselves. It's like, yo, take some time to go play. Take some time to take time for yourself, and have an overflow so you can come back and you can lead at a higher level.
That's so true, man. Because we tend to forget to do that at times. So what are some stuff that you do to overflow your cup?
Yeah, I'm very simple. I play video games. I love like Fortnite. You got Rocket League. Like I just played some Xbox. It's like thing that gets me totally away from business. Another thing, it's like I like to work out. Like working out is a time for me. It's my meditation. I got my cold plunge. Sauna's on its way. Like I'm investing in myself. We fish. You know, I like to fish. I like to travel, and I love food. And so it's like I want to do those things. I don't want to always be working all the time. I don't always want to be, serving all the time. It's like I want to, I also know that like the clock is ticking. Yeah. That's another big thing that we can get into is like people ask me all the time. It's like, why do you do so much? Like you see like out there, they're doing a mural in the garage, and then I come in there and do a podcast, and then I'm jumping on an onboarding call, and then I have a barber coming to interview me. Like, why are you doing so much? Why I'm doing so much is because I'm going to die one day. And I think about dying every single day. And I think that when people don't think about dying, they don't have a sense of urgency like I do. And so death reminds me to execute swiftly and be decisive and to go after the things that I want, because tomorrow's not promised. Right. Like, bro, people, I'll get to speaking next year. How dare you think that you have next year? Like, you're so privileged, so stupid.
That's true, man. That's very true, because you're preaching to the choir. Like I've always wanted to be a keynote speaker, being able to impact lives. And I remember when I threw Go Heavy, that was like, I had battles with myself. I'm like, who are you to throw an event? Who's gonna come and see your event? Like, you're nobody. But then I'm like, man, I just started doubling down. I remember I called Nick, and I'm like, hey man, I wanna book Nick, man. Like, how can we get him in here? And I'm like, man, it's gonna cost this much. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm like, whatever, pay it, get in, go deep, right? And somehow, some way, everything always comes in circle, man. It was what did you think of Go Heavy? Because you like a lot of people spoke highly about you, man. They were like, man, this guy made me cry, made me laugh, made me change my perspective. Like, if this guy's doing it, like, all my excuses went down the drain. Yeah,
I think Go Heavy event was an amazing event. As a speaker and a transformational speaker, I look at all the details of like the green room and the back end and the team, and are the team smiling, and is everybody fired up, and the people good vibes, like the ambiance, and all of it. And I remember telling you, I was like, yo, it's your first event, it's gonna be scary as shit, but it's like, just do it. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you pulled it off. You got some amazing speakers. But screw the lights and the cameras and everything. Like, you had something in your head,
Yeah.
And then you create it into a reality, and that's why I'm so proud of you, right? It's like that's the thing, is like everybody has great ideas, but the genius is in the execution. Who can execute faster? I mean, how many times have you had a great idea and then didn't execute on it, and then you were like walking through life and you're like, oh, that was my idea. It's like, it was, until your creator gave it to someone who's going to take action on it.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Right? So your ideas have a shelf life. It's like
true.
food. Your ideas have a shelf life. Like, you probably had a really amazing idea. You got really fired up about it, and then you didn't execute on it. God gave it to someone else, and they executed on it. So imagine receiving downloads from your creator and not taking action on it. There comes a point where your creator goes, I ain't even going to give him any ideas anymore.
Yeah. He ain't going to activate them.
You know what I'm saying?
True. That's true, man. So let me ask you this, right? In the fitness, let's jump into the fitness, because that's something that, like you said it earlier, like for me, when I go work out, like that's my moment. Like I don't talk to no one when I go to the gym. I'm focused. I put my headphones. I listen to some motivational stuff or some music, and I just get to it. And every time that I finish working out, I'm like, man, I did that. Like, I beat you, Jeffrey. Like, I'm always battling Jeffrey. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna beat your ass today.
Yep.
And every time that I finish working, I'm like, heck yeah, I beat you. Tomorrow we get back at it. Tomorrow I get another opportunity to beat you. Yep. Right? How is that like for you? Because that brings the juices out of me.
Yeah.
Man. And I know that I could compete at that. And I even with a small leg or anything, the other day I benched 305 pounds.
Let's
I
go.
was like, wow, man, I was badass. I'm like, heck yeah, I did that.
Let's
I
go.
was like, I did that.
For sure.
What is that like for you? The working out and getting into that and transforming your life, competing, because you competed.
Yeah.
You did the men's physique.
Yep. The whole fitness stuff is the foundation to everything. I promise you. It's like, y'all are trying to fill a spiritual hole with external things, and you just can't do it. You know, it's like, and so it's like, if you really want to heal internally, you got to nurture internally. You know, there's a law. It's like you can only attract the qualities that you possess, right? It's like, you want happiness, but you ain't happy. You want love, but you can't even love yourself, right? Sure. So like start within. And you know, Wes is a good friend of mine, and he talks about being an offering. It's like, my life is an offering to other people. And my goal every single day is to build myself into the man and give it to the world. You know, and so that's my goal, is every single day, like, I'm trying to build myself into the man that I want to give to the world and people love. But with the fitness, friends can change, business can change, season can change, but that 45 dumbbell will always be a 45-pound dumbbell. You know what I'm saying? It's the one thing that don't change. And so you can always go in there and rely on that to release emotion, to change your physiology. And not only the physical benefits, but the mental benefits. It's like, if you really want to dive into the geeky stuff, it's like, dopamine is released through exercise. Why do I cold plunge? There's never a time where a man with no legs of an arm wants to jump into a cold plunge at 41 degrees. Yeah. But
I think nobody does.
Right? But nobody does. But the cold plunge gives you a dopamine drip the whole entire day. Yeah. Like, for 4 to 5 hours, your brain is dripping dopamine. And so, if I want to show up best on my calls, if I want to serve my people, if I want to if I showed up on this podcast, I'm like, I'm sorry, bro, I'm just so tired, you know, like, people, you would waste your time, I would waste my time, and these people would waste their time listening. And so it is my obligation to show up at peak physiology for everybody in my life, including myself. And so it's a foundation, it's a staple, it's a non-negotiable, but it also makes me feel good, like you said. Like, it's like, I beat the little boy who did, the chubby Italian boy, me, like, he didn't want to work out, beat you today, right? And I even catch myself, like, they were moving the stuff out of the garage to do the mural, and they were about to unplug the cold plunge, and I haven't gotten in it yet. They're like, do you want to get in it before we move it? And my brain was like, nah. And I was like, you should have never said no, because now you got to do it. And then I get it, you know what I'm saying? Because you said no, now I got to do it.
You got to do
right?
it.
And so that's like my anchor for me. Like, there's a time where fear is your friend, and there's a time where fear is your foe. Fear is your friend when you're a woman and it's 10 p.m. at night and you're walking to your car in a parking garage and your head's on a swivel. Like, fear is your friend then. For men and ladies, fear is your friend when you're in a not so good neighborhood and you're looking around making sure that no one's going to run up on you. But fear is not your friend when it's talking you out of going into the cold plunge. Mm-hmm. Fear is not your friend when it's stopping you from speaking your message online. Fear is not your friend when it's stopping you from investing in that program, investing in that event. It's not your friend then. Mm-hmm. So you got to decipher when it's your friend and when it's your foe. And when fear pokes its head, and I know I need to, like, fear is a must that I have to do it. Like fear is like, okay, now I got to do it.
There's like the validation there.
100%. Like, bro, there's a lot of things that I fear that, and because I fear them, I know I have to do them. Like, I think about them all the time. Like ayahuasca. I fear ayahuasca, so I know I got to go sit with Mama Aya, right? It's like another thing. There's you ever see in Moab where they strap themselves and they jump off and they swing?
Yes.
I'm like, oh hell no, now I got to do it.
Now you got to do it.
I'm like, damn, stop it.
Have you skydived?
I haven't no, not yet. Scary. Gotta do it.
Scary.
Right?
Gotta do it now. Let's go.
I gotta do it, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's why I did it, man. I was so scared of skydiving. I'm like, I did it for my birthday. My wife's like, no, you're not gonna do it. I'm like, I gotta do it.
Yeah, I gotta do it.
I gotta
right?
do it now. Like, there's no choice.
It's so funny how the brain works. And so that's called an override. It's like every single, like, how many times in your life have you been afraid of something and then you did it and you look back and were like, oh, that wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah.
Like, where would you be if you didn't let fear get in the way?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because then once you do it, it's like, man, like I should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have been more further down, right?
100%.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people that are listening to this podcast right now, they do have a lot of fear. They want to get into the entrepreneurship, but they're afraid. They want to leave their 9 to 5. They want something better for their lives, but maybe the naysayers, their family are stopping them. Like, what can you share with them to get them to unleash that power and get to that next level?
Yeah, you need to find leverage. The reason why you haven't broke out of your 9 to 5 is because it doesn't hurt that bad.
That nails doesn't hurt as much.
Remember?
Yeah.
Don't hurt that bad, right? And so you need to find leverage, but also whether you do it or whether you don't do it, your family's already paying for it. They're already paying. They don't have the opportunities. They don't have the money. They can't go on specific vacations. Like, you are already costing your family time. And so understand that every 60 to 80 years, someone comes along in the bloodline and changes it for everybody. And it's either going to be you or it's not going to be you. But I guess what? I'm the one. Imagine me, the guy with no legs of an arm, who they said he was going to be institutionalized, aborted, he couldn't be independent. I'm the one in my family who made the most money, who changes the bloodline, who upgrades the psychology, who lives in the $1 million house, right? It's me. I'm the one. Yeah. I show them what's possible. Yeah. And so if it's not you, your bloodline's going to have to wait another 60 to 80 years for someone to step up, and that's pathetic. And the truth is like your ancestors didn't fight off saber-toothed tigers and storm the beaches of Normandy for you to be a little whiny about it, you know? Yeah. It's like, yo, step up, figure it out, lead from the front, and do it to prove to your bloodline that all the sacrifices that they made, all your ancestor sacrifices were worth it, not for you to play safe.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it's our duty, our responsibility, right? We were gifted with all these gifts that our Creator gave us, that we don't want to die with them inside.
Yeah,
trapped, right?
Too many people. I mean, go check the graveyard.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people in the graveyard that took their gifts and took the things that they wanted. They never even made it out of the grave.
Yeah. I love what E.T. says, man. Like, you're already in pain. You might as well get a reward from it. Like, you're already in pain. You're already hurting. Get a reward from it. Get to the other side and come out better. Come out stronger, right?
100%.
You talk. When I got here, you were working out. You were all sweaty, man. And I saw that you had a nice tattoo on your chest, and it had a clock. Can you touch a little bit on that? Was the meaning behind that?
Yeah. That's funny. I'll be honest, about 5 years ago, I did a mushroom trip. And after that mushroom trip, I realized that time is an illusion. We can break that down. Time is an illusion. And the I stands for, like being conscious and being awake and stripping away all the conditioning and all the programming that the Matrix has, programmed us to be. Mm-hmm. I tell my students all the time, I said, I can teach you new things, but most of your progress is going to be coming from unlearning. It's not even learning new things, it's unlearning.
You got to unlearn to relearn?
Yeah, but unlearn all the BS that they taught you. Time is hard at work, the more money you make, you got to get a job, and then you got to go to college. Like, there's a lot of things that you need to unlearn. And so I'll give you an example that time is fake. Is when you're a kid on Christmas Eve, like, you cannot wait for it to be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it takes, it's like forever, right? I
always feel like.
or you're sitting in class, and you can't wait to get out for summer break, and all you hear is tick, tick, tick. You're like, yo, this hour felt like 5 hours.
Yeah, so
and
true.
Then you do something that you really enjoy. Next thing you know, 3 hours goes by. You're like, where did time go?
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes time goes fast and sometimes it goes slow. It's not real.
That's so
Not even
true.
real, right? And I put on my tinfoil hat here, right? Like people would be like, this guy's crazy, but also like, what's a Monday?
Yeah.
They just told you.
Yeah.
It's a human construct. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What
Yeah.
do you mean?
Yeah.
We're not designed to go to work like that. We're not designed to go to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, who said?
Yeah.
You know? Who said you got to wake up at this time and go to work and do that?
Yeah.
They created the game and you're in the game.
Yeah. Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll stop there because they'll start being like, this guy's crazy, right?
No.
But it's like there's human constructs. Like we created these things. We created these things because we like certainty and we like control. That's why the fear of death freaks me out. Why? Because I don't have control over it. Humans love control. And so we want to control the outcome. We want to have the certainty. That's why death freaks people out.
Yeah.
That's why we create like and no, I'm not bashing anything, but like religion was created so people can feel good about the unknown. Because we got to hold on to something, right? We don't know, bro. We have no idea what's going on. No one has any idea what's going on. Like you were born and they said bird, bird. You're like bird, okay. Dog, dog, dog. You can't afford that. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's all programming.
Yeah.
So that tattoo represents of like breaking out, being more aware, figuring out what's really important to you, and understanding that time is an illusion, but it's ticking. It's ticking. For some people, life goes by fast, and for some people, they're like, I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah.
It all depends what you do with your time.
That's true. That's so true, man. Different perspective right there. That's for sure, man. So what was your experience? Because I did a ceremony with DMT.
Okay. Wow.
So, yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. It was intense. I did it a couple years ago. I want to do ayahuasca. That's something that I've been talking about. So it's funny, man. The more conversations are coming up because
she finds you. She chases you, bro.
Yeah, bro. It's like we talked about it. I was like, fun. Like this is something right here, right? Like, what was your experience through your mushroom ceremony?
Yeah, it was my first time doing it, and I had a great guide in the sense that she was like, we're gonna microdose. She microdosed me into a full dose, right? Like guide my ass right into a full dose, right? And I had a realization. I actually have the audio recorded, like this 5 hours. Like I just recorded my phone, set it down, and forgot about it, and so I can like hear the downloads and talk and everything.
Ooh, that's genius.
I was laying down in a cabin, and you know, like with wood, wood has like those circles, and there's like all these different things. Well, I started to see eyeballs everywhere, and the aha for me was like, Nick, and I told my team this because my team was there as well. I said, anytime that you feel like you're not enough and you're not good enough, look at all the lives that you changed. And it was all these eyes. They were everywhere. And it reminded me that regardless of what I do moving forward, that I'm already enough. And I've always been enough. And nothing's missing. And that's the message for y'all as well, is like, the reason why you're not doing what you're doing is because you think there's something missing and you're not qualified and there's not enough time or there's not enough knowledge. It's like there's nothing missing. You have everything inside of you to achieve whatever you want to do. And that's what we do, is just help people pull it out. And so for me, it was, I'm enough. I'm right where I need to be. I'm always guided. You know, there's any time that I feel down, I can reflect on all the impact and all the lives that all the lives that I've changed. And even now, like when I go, it's like I've already made a big impact here. Yeah. It's like
you're gonna be here forever, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was great, but also the psilocybin unveils or breaks down the veil over your eyes. Like all of this stuff is moving right now, but we can't see it at this level, this frequency. Like our brain is only tapped in. Like let's take a radio station, for example, right? Like a radio. Radios have a bunch of stations, and you tune in. Right now, our brain is only programmed and designed to tune into this frequency, this physical world. There's a whole world out there. There's a whole vibrations that we cannot see. Like parallel timeline, bro, it's crazy. Now I sound like a cuckoo, right? But it's like the psilocybin breaks the veil, and you get to see things for what they really are. Your skin's vibrating all the time. Your skin is breathing, right? Like you have this vessel. You're like, oh my, like you're so in the present moment. Like you're like, whoa, all I have is right now. It's wild.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, I had something similar with DMT, but I think at that moment I was so afraid. So, you know how they always tell you like set your intention when you're gonna do something. Yep. So, I set the intention. My intention was to have a conversation with God. Yeah. And when I did that process, I noticed that I had so much anger trapped with myself. Like I was angry at Jeffrey, and I just went on a rant, like going off on me, and then I could just hear the negative voice in the back of my head, like, "Where's your God? When you need him, he's not here." But that was the ego talking, and thankfully I didn't allow that to stay. Like I had to change that dialogue. I had to change that conversation. But my experience was a little. I wasn't prepared. I don't think I allowed myself to be there. That I was so afraid that I don't know. It was something impactful, and it's still to this day. I'm like, man, I gotta redo it because I think there's something there that I need to see that I didn't see the first time because I was so caught up.
You know what it is? We talked about it. It's the control.
The control. Yeah. I didn't want to let go.
They want you to let go, right? And the moment you let go, it's this blissful experience. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Hold on to this world. Hold on to this world. This is my identity. This is who I am. These are my things. This is my house. This is my car. Like, no. To let go. Scariest thing. They say that in all the medicines. It's like the moment you let go and you surrender, there you go.
Let go.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't let go the first time.
Yeah, it's hard. You only know until you're there, right?
Yeah.
Like I think about Aya all the time. Like I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do it. You know, super scared. Am I gonna die? Like all these different things, right? Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's so true, man. But a couple last questions. Man, this has been so good. Time fast. I love when I'm having a podcast. And I don't even, I try to look at the questions and I don't even ask anything of the questions because you're just in the flow.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. So let me ask you this: like, what are you up to? What's next for Nick? How does your life looks in the next 5 years?
Ooh, 5 years. Yeah, that's if I got 5 years, right? But I would say right now I'm hyper focused on creating the most impactful speaker trainings in the world. Yeah. Right? Like I want to show people how they can communicate, how they can create irresistible offers, how they can speak from stage, even if that's a podcast or Instagram, their phone. Like all of you have a stage in your pocket that you're not leveraging. So I create stage masters. So making sure that all my products, my services, my masterminds are irresistible and give massive results. So building that out and making sure that the business model is positioned where I don't need to be on a physical stage if I don't need to. The world is in a very interesting place and it gets very hectic, especially around specific times, some turbulence. And so I'm positioning myself where I can serve my students and my people from virtual anywhere in the world. And I plan on having a place in Colombia. Where I can go out there and have a farm, have self-sustainable land, and make sure I'm chilling when places like this get a little bit turbulent.
Why Colombia?
It's close. If there's a few things that I won't say because they'll probably flag us, but the food is not poison. The people are amazing. The culture is amazing. I think Western civilization is a little bit rocky. I think there's a lot of being privileged, a lot of expectation, a lot of ego, a lot of significance. A little slimy over here.
Yeah.
And so when you go there, when you expose yourself, and by the way, like they've done a great job of portraying everybody else to be the enemy when they're not. So when you go over there, you realize like, oh, this ain't that bad. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been to, right? So the food, the people are great, the culture is great. Want to learn a new language. Want to have a place that I can go out when it gets a little bit rocky here.
Yeah.
I'm just setting myself up to not be stuck.
I love it, man. I'm Colombian, man, but I haven't been to Colombia since I was 4.
Oh man.
I can't wait till they allow me to fly out of this country. That's the first place that I'm at here. I'm gonna call you, man.
When is that going on?
Huh? I'm still working, so I just have my work permit. Right
okay.
Now. Yeah,
okay.
So I came at the age of 4 illegally.
Yeah.
And thankfully, again, that was a gift, right?
Yep.
Because I couldn't get the 9 to 5, so I had to work, learn how to sell. But now, we're running a business. I own a solar company, a sales organization. But I can't wait till they tell me, Jeffrey, you're forgiven. You could go back.
When is that? Or we don't know?
I don't know yet.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay,
so-
well, when that is,
Yeah.
let's take a trip.
We're gonna take
'Cause
a trip.
I'm plugged up over there. We got some connections, but yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this, because I wanna get to the level that you're at, right? And I know many people are as well, where they want to impact people from the stage, from social media, the podcast. This is the reason why I started this podcast, because I wanted to bring people that are living at the full potential, so they could be an example for others, but also an example for me to see it vividly,
Yeah.
right? And so, dude, if you're doing it, I could do it. If I do it, anybody could do it. So, what are some stuff that if they want to develop their speaking ability, their communication, their connection with people, what are some stuff that you recommend? Maybe a book or audio.
Yeah, for sure. There's a sequence to the information, right? It's like baking a cake. If you don't have the right sequence when baking a cake, it don't look like a cake, it don't taste like a cake, right? And so the first thing that everybody has to start with, and all of our students start with, is who are you and what is the result that you get people? And getting very clear on that. It's like, who are you and where can you condense time for people, and who's your dream client? Like, because there's people that I like to work with, and then there's people like, damn, I wish I would have never took your money because I don't like working with you, right? And so start with that. It's like, look at your accolades, look at your track record, and typically I'll end with this: is your who is you a few years ago. So wherever you were a few years ago, you're most qualified to condense time for that person. And so I don't think it's as impactful and as transformational for you to speak unless you have something to offer people. And the reason being is because there's so much transformation that can happen in an hour podcast. The real transformation happens when people go deep with you. And you're doing yourself and you're doing the audience a disservice by speaking in an amazing way, but not offering them any proximity to you. Like, imagine I go out on stage and then they're like, I want to work with you. It's like, I don't have anything for you. It's like, how dare you, you know? And so that's the first thing. The other thing that I would say is speaking is a muscle, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So just like anything, it's like repetition. Start getting in front of the camera, start sharing stories, start, teaching content. Like, even now, everybody listening right now can go on ChatGPT and whatever your industry is, say, what are the top 50 problems that people struggle with in my industry? And it's going to spit out a bunch of content, and you start teaching on that stuff. Like, everybody can start now. But most people, their focus is off. And what I mean by that is they're like, well, I have a fear of public speaking, and what if they don't like me, and what if I stutter? It's like, you already lost. You're focused so much on yourself. Like,
It's not about you.
It's not about you. Like, remember, you're not as important as you think you are, right? God gave you the gift, but it's not your gift, it's God's gift, right? And so it's all about the audience. It's all about serving others. And if you can't drop your ego and be willing to suck at long enough to be great at something, it's probably not for you.
That's the feedback, right? If you're not willing to suck, then
Yeah.
don't even do it.
Go on YouTube, look at my old videos. I sucked. I was horrendous, right? And now people pay me $50,000 for an hour. It's like, I didn't just start there.
Yeah.
I used to suck. My calendar wasn't booked. No one knew who I was. They didn't want me. And now,
Sweat equity.
yeah, now I double my prices so y'all stop bothering me. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. And now you can pick and choose.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. Man, this was powerful, Nick. Thank you so much for taking the time and allowing us to be in your house. Beautiful, beautiful place. Any last words that you want to tell our audience? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah.
The coaching program that you have available, how can they become a student of your program?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Nick Santonastasso. I'm the most handsome man with no legs of an arm, so you'll know exactly who I am. And with the speaking stuff, listen, it ain't for everybody, but for a few of you, it's absolutely perfect. But it's a big obligation to speak, right? When you're a truth teller in a world full of lies, the truth hurts, right? So people are going to throw stones, you're going to get hated on, but there's someone out there that needs you, and it's selfish for you to keep your story. So you can message me speaking or whatever, we'll get on a call, but they can find me on all different platforms. And for those that are out there, maybe you're on your last straw, you're on your last breath, you're on your last dollar, you've been pushing, understand that your blessing has already been prepared for you. You're just getting prepared for your blessing. God bless you.
Oh, that's it. You got to end it at that, man. That was powerful. Ooh. Man, make sure you guys rewatch this, share it with someone else. Hope you guys got a ton of value, because I did. This guy's impacting my life at a tremendous level, and that's the reason why I do this, because I want to get better so I could add more value to every single one of you guys. I want to be an example for my family. I have 3 beautiful kids. Can't wait till you have kids, man, because it'll be a beautiful thing. So tune in. See you on the next one. Take care, y'all.